Hey, everybody, welcome to the channel that takes you deep inside the San Francisco 49ers. I am your host, Jack Hammer, and it is time to hand out some game balls. That's right, the San Francisco 49ers last night blowing out the Dallas Cowboys by a score of 42-10. The 49ers moving to 5-0 on the season, and it was just a game. You watched that 49ers team last night and the way that they performed, a high level across the board. So getting to this 5 game balls for this one wasn't the easiest. I'm not sure if everybody's going to agree with them. If you agree with me, let me know. If you disagree, let me know there as well. You look at this for the 49ers, starting off the season 5-0. This is the first time since 2019 that the 49ers have started off the season 5-0. You remember back just to 2019, wasn't that long ago. The San Francisco, I think they had a good season that year, the 49ers. I think they got to the Super Bowl, if memory serves me correct. They didn't work out all that well in the Super Bowl, but they got there. They have a better guy leading the way this year right now, quarterback. So, you look at it, the 49ers also with that victory last night, improving to 20-19-1 all-time against the Cowboys, including 11-10 record at home. They've also won 9 consecutive regular season games now at Levi Stadium, and they've won 10 consecutive games overall now in a row, have the San Francisco 49ers, because Brock Purdy improved to 10-0 as the starting quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. We got to talk about one other thing before we get to handing out the game balls. This 49ers offense opening up games, talk about it a lot on this channel so far this season, how good they've been through the first 5 weeks. The 49ers have scored on each of their opening possessions this season. 4 touchdowns, 1 field goal. San Francisco 49ers have scored a total of 31 points on their opening possession of the game this season. So a tremendous look there for the 49ers in terms of the way that they performed up to this point. Now let's go ahead. Let's start to hand out some game balls. San Francisco 49ers, their standout performers against the Dallas Cowboys last night at Levi Stadium. And the first game ball, that one goes to Brock Purdy. That should be an easy one to anybody to watch the game. Brock Purdy completing 17 of his 24 pass attempts last night for 252 yards and a career-high 4 touchdowns. With the 4 touchdown throws, Purdy has now thrown at least 2 in a game 8 times in his career. Remember, he has only made 10 starts. So in 8 of Brock Purdy's 10 career starts, he's thrown at least 2 touchdown passes. This ties him with Hall of Fame quarterback Kurt Warner for most games with at least 2 touchdown passes in a player's first 10 career starts. It kind of seems to make sense then that Kurt Warner is one of those guys that came out in defense of Brock Purdy during this offseason when Brock Purdy was called a dinker and dunker. It makes sense that Kurt Warner would be one of those guys who would come out and defend him. Kurt Warner led that greatest show on turf of the then St. Louis Rams. Just the crazy numbers back that year in 1999. Brock Purdy coming out right now, 10 starts into his career during the regular season, 8 times. He's thrown at least 2 touchdown passes. Last night, a career high 4. You look at the game, it was a little bit up and down for Purdy. After hitting all 4 of his passes on the opening drive, including a touchdown to George Kittle, he was going to go on and complete just 2 of his next 6. However, from that point on, he really was able to put things together. He was 11 of 14 for the remainder of the game. But more importantly, if you look at what he did in the second half, it was a near perfect second half for Brock Purdy. Yeah, he only played the third quarter, first couple of plays of the fourth quarter, but in that second half, basically the third quarter, Brock Purdy 8 of 9 for 119 yards, 2 touchdowns. Before, like I said, being pulled from the game just 2 minutes into the fourth quarter. I know this is about the game ball for just last night, but if you go and you take a second and look at what Brock Purdy's done since stepping into the lineup in place of Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo went down against the Miami Dolphins last week. Brock Purdy has completed 70% of his passes. That's 208 completions on 297 attempts, 2,579 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Those are just his regular season stats. That's right. Since stepping, that's basically 11 games. 11 games since replacing Jimmy Garoppolo when he went down with the injury. Purdy has completed 70% of his passes, 2,579 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. You look at, last week we talked about Brocktober and what that means. Well, if you look at Brock Purdy in the month of October, it's over 82% right now in his completion percentage in this month. He's thrown 5 touchdown passes, over 500 yards in those games. Closer to about 530, I I believe it is. And he didn't play the fourth quarter last night. That's how good the performance has been from Brock Purdy. And then you turn on the TV this morning and you see Dan Orlovsky from ESPN saying that if Mac Jones was out in San Francisco, he'd be able to do the same type of things that Brock Purdy does. No, come on, Dan, you're smarter than this. You're smarter than that. I really think you are. You know, I'm not sure exactly why you think that that's the case. I'm not sure why I have feedback. Let me see if I can get this resolved. You guys just mentioned to me right now there's some bad vocals coming through for you guys. So let me check it out. I started having some issues last night at the stadium with my computer. How was that? Does that sound better, everybody? Let me know if that sounds better. Okay, much better. They say, okay, sorry about that. There's something going on with the computer. So we'll go ahead and let me run through this again real quick. Like I said, Brock Purdy last night, tremendous performance, 17 of 24 on the night for the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers, 252 yards, career high, 4 touchdowns. With those 4 touchdown throws, he's now thrown at least two touchdowns in 8 games in his career. This ties him with Kurt Warner for the most games with at least 2 touchdown throws in a player's first 10 career starts. And if you look at Purdy's performance last night, good start, hit all 4 of his possessions, throws on the opening possession, then kind of struggled a little bit, hit just 2 of his next 6. Then from there, you look at what he did after halftime, 8 of 9, 119 yards and a couple of touchdowns. He was pulled early in the game. You know, you look at Brock Purdy, since the time he took over for Jimmy Garoppolo against the Miami Dolphins, Purdy's completed 70% of his passes, 208 out of 297 attempts, 2,579 yards, with 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. That's it, just 3 interceptions. And again, Dan Orlovsky, don't know what you're talking about. Love some of your breakdowns, but to say that Mac Jones could step into this 49ers offense and perform at a level close to or the same as Brock Purdy, come on, man, you're smarter than that. You get paid a lot of money to analyze the game of football. You should be a lot better with the way that you choose your words than to try to act like that wasn't a comparison between these 2 quarterbacks. I understand where you were coming from, but to say that Mac Jones and Brock Purdy are right now on the same level, all you got to do is put one on the other. That's just a bad take. As Texas Niner member of the Toolbox says, yeah, that was a crazy take. It was a bad one, a really bad one. And it just feeds the narrative. There's a narrative out there. It's real easy to find that you can basically plug any quarterback that's in the NFL right now. Plug any starting quarterback into this 49ers offense, and he'd be putting up the same numbers as Brock Purdy. Yeah, and you've got to be better than that. You got to be smarter than that, and especially for the amount of money that ESPN is paying you, and the fact that Rex Ryan had to come out and tell you no, then you should really know that you're making a mistake, because Rex Ryan is seldom right. But he was right on this one. And then, so game ball number 1 to Brock Purdy. Game ball number 2. This one, everybody, I think, should get this one. George Kittle. George Kittle gets the second game ball for this game. He had 3 receptions for 67 yards, leading all 49ers receivers in yardage last night with those 67. All 3 of his catches going for touchdowns. He was targeted 4 times. The one that he didn't catch didn't get to him. It was a pass that was batted down at the line of scrimmage. But if you look at Kittle, his 3 scores, a career high, and pushed him into second place in 49ers franchise history for tight ends. Kittle's 34 receiving touchdowns are 1 more than Brent Jones. He has a ways to go to catch Vernon Davis. Vernon Davis, 21 ahead of him with 55 total touchdowns, receiving touchdowns as a member of the San Francisco 49ers. Kittle's 3 touchdown performance. The first for 49ers tight end since Vernon Davis had 3 against the Houston Texans back in 2009. So that really shows you how good Vernon Davis was during his time with the 49ers. But you've also seen George Kittle climb up the ladder. Last week, if you watched the film breakdown, I talked a lot about how Kittle was open a number of times. Brock Purdy just didn't get him the ball. That changed today, last night at least. 4 targets to Kittle. The first one, the touchdown, That was a really nice play by Brock Purdy escaping the pocket. The second one, you got Kittle getting open down the sidelines on a flea flicker for a nice long touchdown one run there, and then you have the one in the red zone a little bit later on out of 22 personnel. Great play fake by Purdy to hit George Kittle in the end zone. And we look at that. We got him in here. We got the guy, the notorious GAV, Big Gav in the house. Member of the Toolbox has just got here. Roll on the film breakdown, 100% prime juice. Let's go. You're a little early for that, Gav. We're going to be back later this afternoon with a film breakdown. We're handing out the game balls right now. We could almost give Kyle Juszczyk, he gets maybe a piece of a game ball because he had a couple of really nice receptions last night. He had a good game for Kyle Juszczyk. Had one bad play in which he gave up the only sack of the game on a missed block and pass protection, but a solid game out of Kyle Juszczyk. And we're definitely going to get to that film breakdown a little bit later. I was working on that, but I wanted to get on here and hand out some game balls, celebrate some good performances last night for the San Francisco 49ers. My third game ball, that's going to offensive tackle Colton McKivitz. I think McKivitz deserves a game ball for his performance here, and really the way that he's played throughout most of this season. Throughout the offseason, there was a lot of talk about the 49ers offensive line being the Achilles heel of this offense. A lot of people talking about the fact that they were going to struggle when it came to the offensive line, in particular with Colton McKivitz. Those cries just grew louder when he allowed 3 sacks to TJ Watt in the season opener out in Pittsburgh. Last night, though, McKivitz did not allow a hit on Purdy. Neither Micah Parsons nor DeMarcus Lawrence were able to get to the quarterback in the game. In addition to that, he was able to help open holes in the run game. He could be seen putting DeMarcus Lawrence on his back on Kirsten McCaffrey's touchdown run as well. So just a really solid performance throughout last night for Colton McKivitz, and he's really been good for the most part this entire season. So got to give him a game ball mainly for the performance last night against one of the better pass rushers in the game, but also for what he's been doing throughout the season. There goes Thomas in the background, running by 100 miles an hour. You guys hear the dog bark. Now you just saw him run by. That's all. See how fast he is? That guy, he's like he runs like Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. He's got speed. He's got the moves, and then you try to chase him down, and he's real agile. He's tough to get a hold of until I put his shoes on. When I put his shoes on, it's a different story. But that dog is a burner, that's for sure. So far we got game balls on the offensive side going to Brock Purdy, George Kittle, Colton McKivitz. Let's turn attention to the defensive side. We got 2 for the defense. Probably could hand out more because they were so stellar last night. Limited in this thing to 5 really makes it tough to hand out these game balls and make it feel like it's even. But game ball number 4 goes to Fred Warner. You look at Fred Warner and his performance last night. He was all over the field against the Cowboys. Showed why he's the best linebacker in the NFL today. Fred Warner last night with 8 tackles, sacked Dak Prescott, forced a fumble, and came away with an interception. Just how good that was. That Warner is the first 49ers player since Navarro Bowman in 2013. It was December 29th of 2013. Navarro Bowman against the Arizona Cardinals had a sack, a forced fumble, and an interception in the single game. That's the last time that a 49ers linebacker did that. That was almost 10 years ago. And Fred Warner pulling that trick off last night. There was one play in particular where you have Warner dropping in the coverage, and Prescott wants to go there, has to pull it down, and then as he's moving, now you see Warner take off, and he goes and gets after him and gets the sack. That's the kind of stuff you just can't teach, and that's really what you get with Fred Warner. You get that with Dre Greenlaw. This 49ers defense doing the work last night to shut down a really good. I don't know if I should say a really good. That's probably overstating it there, Jack. But a Cowboys offense that had been able to put up some numbers, has some weapons, especially in CeeDee Lamb. But I don't know if you guys heard or saw the post-game show, if you're in the Bay Area watching NBC Sports Bay Area, but Dante Whitner, former 49ers defensive back safety, he had some real choice words for Dak Prescott, basically saying that Dak Prescott sucks. That's what he said. He said Dak Prescott sucks. If you look at his performance, he's a tier 4 performer in the NFL. And the 49ers have progressively made him worse as they faced them over these last 3 games in this 3-game win streak for the 49ers. Last night, 3 interceptions for Dak Prescott. One of those interceptions going to Fred Warner. And the guy who helped Fred Warner get that interception is the other guy who gets the game ball. The 49ers' fifth and final game ball for the game last night against the Dallas Cowboys goes to Diamador Lenore. Lenore, I think, is one of the most underrated players on this 49ers defense. Sunday night, he was all over Cowboys receiver. He was targeted 5 times in coverage. He allowed just 2 receptions for 14 yards. On those 2 receptions, he gave up 1 yard after the catch. That's how tight he was in coverage. So a really strong performance of Diamador Lenore last night. And like I said, it was Lenore who created the interception for Fred Warner early in the fourth quarter. Lenore had really tight coverage. Michael Gallup, the Cowboys receiver, running a slant. Lenore was all over him. The pass comes from Prescott, and Lenore was able to get his hand around, get his hand on it, deflect the pass, and it went right to Fred Warner for the turnover. So just a tremendous game last night for Diamador Lenore. Solid performance all around. Like I said, he was targeted 5 times in coverage last night, allowed just 2 receptions and 14 yards on those receptions. So solid performance last night out of Diamador Lenore. So got a new member of the toolbox. This guy's been around for a long time. It's great to see him become a member. Shane Calamarino. Shane, thank you so much for joining the channel. I know you're already here watching all the time. So it's great to see you become a member of the channel as well. Welcome to the toolbox, as Texas Niner says. We got a good group of guys and folks who like to check this out all the time. So really good to see you. And Texas Niner also says Oliver gets a couple flowers. He should. You look at Isaiah Oliver last night. He gets dinged because of the touchdown that he gave up, and that was a bad play on his part. But when you look at the game overall, pretty solid game across the board for this defense. If I could, you could probably just give a game ball out to everybody on this team, really. But Jed limits me to he only lets me give out 5 because he goes, got to make sure that you have enough money to pay those signing bonuses. So we only hand out 5 here on Inside the Farmers with Jack Hammer. But yeah, it was a solid day for coverage. Also for Isaiah Oliver last night. He gave up 52 yards total. 26 of that coming on the 1 throw. So his other 4 receptions gained that he gave up last night, only allowing 26 yards. So not a bad performance overall by Isaiah Oliver. A lot of times he's lining up and he's getting dinged for coverage where he's in, in a zone defense as well. So got to play maybe a little bit tighter there, but I thought it was a pretty solid game overall for Isaiah Oliver last night. I like what the 49ers did there. They stuck with their best group. Right, they came out last night and they did mess around with that secondary. There was no Ambry Thomas, not gonna knock him out, Ambry Thomas, even though we know that he struggled. But that was the best group that they went with last night, and it showed in their performance, allowing just 10 points, really dominating performance overall against the Dallas Cowboys last night by the 49ers defensive side of the ball. Mr. Sully wants to know if line grades have been released for this game. They seem to be playing above expectations. Yeah, I think they have been. Let me take a look at it really quick. When it comes to the offensive line, the grades for last night overall, when it comes to it, let me pull it up really quick. We got Trent Williams at 78.8. Matt Pryor, he played a couple of snaps, 76. Jake Brendel, 75. So Trent Williams, 78.8. Jake Brendel, 75.7. John Feliciano stepping at left guard when Aaron Banks went down last night. He was rated at 75.1. Spencer Burford earned a 73.0 grade last night. Colt McKivitz was graded at 57.4 and Aaron Banks at 48.2. Yeah, I'm not a big believer in the whole PFF when it comes to grades. Even some of the other stats that they give out, such as turnover worthy plays, big time throws, all these different things, they have definitions that they need to work within. There's parameters that they need to work in. But at the end of the day, it all really just depends on who's watching the film. You can have it's not one guy that's doing all 32 grades across the NFL. It's multiple people that are doing that in order to get it out there in a timely manner. And when it comes to PFF and it comes to their grades, they're worth about what it costs to get the inside of a donut, which is nothing because there's nothing there. So just not a big fan of their grades, but hey, that's what it is. Not bad across the board. And I think that McKivitz played better than what his grades are showing. Cal Bear 949 says Orlovsky made a big deal about how archaic and predictable Dallas' scheme was. Did you see that on film? It was. I'll say this: I get sitting up in the press box. Last night I got to sit close to Dante Whitner, and he was calling out the coverages from up top. I think the Dallas Cowboys, there wasn't a lot of motion on offense. You look at the defensive side, there wasn't a lot of movement. There was a couple of plays where there was one in particular where they tricked Brock Purdy. Would have been an interception possibly, but the Flyers caught a break that it was knocked down at the line of scrimmage. That was a little bit early on, so there was a little bit of that. I could see where he's coming from, but I think the Dallas scheme isn't. It's not I wouldn't say it's archaic, but at the same time, they just got handled, and and Dallas got handled by the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, you go back and you look at the other three teams. They played the Jets, and they played the Giants, and they played the Patriots. Anybody that's watched the Jets, Giants, and Patriots play offense this year just wants to stick a fork in their eyes. That's how bad they are, and that's really where the Dallas Cowboys built their big, number one defense in the league off of playing some really crappy offenses. So don't put a whole lot into that. At this point, it's nitpicky, but it's trying to see how much Dallas bad coaching scheme affected the outcome. I think more than anything last night, Cal Bear, it was really the 49ers and their couple of things. Their offense just does such a good job of putting points on the board early in games. Doesn't matter if it's the Cowboys. We've seen them go down the field, like I mentioned earlier in the show. The 49ers in the first 5 weeks of this season have opened up the game scoring 31 points, 4 touchdowns and a field goal on their opening possession of games. And they've been doing that to everybody. And they just have too much going on offensively. They have a quarterback that's playing at a real high level. They have a running back that's playing at a high level. And their offensive line is playing above what a lot of people thought they were going to be playing at this year. Taylor Broussard, you got to become a member of the Toolbox too, Taylor. You're in here a lot. You always have good questions. You said last week in chat, I said I felt like there was a regression towards the mean game. Through 5 games, I couldn't see Purdy trending towards 20 touchdowns on the season. I expected 3, but not 4. Yeah, I didn't expect 4 last night either. I thought it was going to be a solid game, but he definitely played at a high level, and you got to hand it to him. So, the 5 game balls for this game, real quick, just to kind of go through them one more time. Game ball number 1 to Brock Purdy. Number 2, game ball goes to George Kittle. Colton McKivitz gets a game ball. Number 4 game ball goes to Fred Warner. And then the 5th and final game ball goes to Deommodore Lenoir. That's in no particular order. Just give out 5 of them. I ran through the offense first and then went to the defensive side of the ball. And if I was going to give out a special teams game ball, that would go to Ronnie Bell. Ronnie Bell with a couple of really nice downs on punts from Mitchell Wishnowsky down inside the 10-yard line. So he deserves a break there. The game ball. Moonman wants to know what I thought of Wilkes' game plan. I thought it was solid. They dominated. They were a little bit tighter in coverage in this game. They weren't off quite as much. They had a plan and they stuck with it. And you look at this game, and the Dallas Cowboys last night in the first half had 7 offensive possessions. They picked up a first down on one of those 7 offensive possessions. 6 times the Cowboys were held to either 3 and out or fewer. Because there was also a turnover that went in there. So that's how good that defense was. They were dominant last night through and through. Shane says he's booking his plane tickets for the NFC Championship game this week. That's a good call, actually. Book those tickets to get out here. That way you can you're going to get a cheaper flight for it, and then you can always change it if you need to. Gregus says, as crazy as it sounds, this team could be better than the 94 team. Gregus, I think they are better than the 94 team. Last night, I know the post game show was on late last night. I compared this offense, this team, to the 1984 team, the team that went 15-1. Similar type of situation as that 84 team. Remember that 84 team losing the NFC Championship game on the road the season before. Some bad things went against them. They had a bad taste in their mouth. They came out the next year determined not to let that happen again. That really feels like what we're seeing right now with this team. Last season, NFC Championship game on the road, it wasn't close. They didn't lose because of bad calls by a ref, but they got a bad break at the quarterback position, and as good as Purdy's been playing, and they just, I think they feel like they got the short end of the stick on that, and they're going to come out and not let that happen again and take care of business. So I really think that this team right now, this 2023 version of the San Francisco 49ers is much more like the 1984 version than the 94 team just because they are just so deep, so talented all the way through. If you remember that 94 team, they weren't dominant in the beginning of the season. I think they started off that year 3-2. They lost to Montana. They lost another one. They had the bad 40-8 game against the Eagles. And they turned it around after that. And look at that, we got him. I'm sorry, Taylor. Hopefully, I didn't make you feel bad, but he has become a member. Taylor Broussard, the newest member of the Toolbox. Thank you so much, Taylor. I really appreciate that. You're in here all the time, and I appreciate you becoming a member. Fantastic stuff. I need to get a little sounder like with people clapping when somebody becomes a member. So thank you very much, Taylor. I appreciate it. You're in here all the time, and definitely deserve the clap. So thank you so much, Taylor. And then Gregus says Craig and Taylor out of the backfield back in 1984 was unstoppable. That's absolutely right. And that's, again, I just there's, for me, it's more about some of the other things than just the running game, but there's so many weapons, and Brock Purdy playing at a level we haven't seen in a long time. And I would say there's some plays that you're seeing out of Brock Purdy that are very reminiscent of the guy that used to wear number 16 back in the 80s. Taylor, thank you so much again. And everybody, again, I gave you my handed out my 5 game balls for last night's win over the Cowboys. Brock Purdy, George Kittle, Colt McKivitz, Fred Warner, and Deommodore Lenoir. Like I always say, hey, take it for what it's worth. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you guys can do me a favor, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already, and then make sure you turn on your notifications so you don't want to miss any of the updates right here on Inside the 49ers with Jack Hammer. Here's one of those updates you don't want to miss. We're going to be back in about 2 hours. I'm working on it right now, getting all my notes written out, ready to go. We're going to be doing a 49ers film review. We're going to be keying in on Brock Purdy's performance against the Dallas Cowboys. So it's going to be a Brock Purdy 49ers passing game film review today in a couple hours. So make sure you lock it in. Get those notifications set so you don't miss it. But 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 on the East Coast. That way we get you out in time. Plenty of time for dinner. For your dinner, you can get on for Monday Night Football and everything else. So have a great night, a great afternoon, guys. We'll be back soon. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Have a great day. Take care.